Here I am. Hi, welcome back. Welcome back to me as well. It's been a while that I've sat in front of the camera to talk to you guys, and I hope you're excited about a new podcast, and I'm going to try to talk about lots of different things today. I've made so many things this summer, but strangely I kept thinking, oh, I don't know what to talk about on my podcast, which really is very silly because since I've made so many things, there's a lot that I can share with you. So first, let's talk about some of the knitting patterns I've been working on and some of the things that I've knit. And I have some right here with me. So these are some of the shawls that I have published in the meantime. They have, partially they have some brioche in it. So this is the wrong side. This shawl is called Lita, L-Y-T-A. And it was super fun to design. It was super fun to knit. This is a yarn, the blue speckly yarn here is a yarn that I got from Toil and Trouble Yarns, Anna in Salem, Massachusetts. She now has a store called Circle of Stitches right in Salem, but she used to be a yarn dyer way before she had a store. And when I was there for the yarn crawl in March of this year, I also taught a class there, but I was visiting her shop and I saw this turquoise yarn and I just couldn't resist it. So this is a sport weight. This is her sport weight yarn, Sonnet Sport. And then the orange is a Malabrigo Arroyo in Sunset, I think, but I will check that for you. So this is Lita. It's a rather shallow, wide, I'm not even sure if you can call this a crescent. It's sort of like an in-between thing between a scarf and a shawl. And it's just very summery and in the colors, and it will work wonderfully when the fall comes. Right now it's 90 some degrees outside, so I'm hiding inside the air conditioning. Shawl number 2 that I'm going to show you today is called Splish Splash. Also has some brioche in it. This one's even more summery. This has like a watery green pool color, I call it. And then it just has a very interesting border here, and it also uses brioche stitches, but you only have to, and there's tutorials in the video, there's video tutorials in the pattern. So this is called Splish Splash, and all you have to learn is your basic brioche. So if you already know that, you're good. You need to learn a couple of decreases. All this fancy stuff happens before your brioche even starts, so it may look really complicated, but it's not. Let me show you the wrong side of it because I think it looks just as cool, if not cooler. So this is the front and this is the back of it. So again, this is a very shallow and wide shawlette really, because it's not really, like, it's not going to give you all that much warmth or that much coverage. It's more for pretty. And you are working through most of the shawl without having to do anything fancy at all. And then the border is a brioche border. So this one's called Splish Splash. I used Malabrigo Mechita for this in water green and arco iris, which means rainbow. And water green, obviously, you can see it looks like a pool. So that one, I'm so in love with it. The colors just work perfectly. When I saw those colors together, I was like, I knew I had to do something with it. So that is Splish Splash. We've seen Lita. And then, of course, I've worked on a bunch of fall things, which some of them I've brought here to show you. And some of them are a little too far away for me to reach, but this is my new Lopi coat. It's not quite done yet. It needs to be steeked. You can see here in the front, that's the steek stitches. But this is, let me show you how far this goes down. This is like a mid-thigh length coat. I don't know how much it's going to show you in the picture. I will try to put a real picture in there, maybe on me or on a dummy or something. But what the next step that's going to happen here is I'm going to crochet up on either side of, crochet up and down on either side of the stick. You can do it with a machine as well, but I like to do a crocheted stick. And then I'm going to cut open in the middle, and I'm going to sew a zipper into it. Boy, that was hard. I'm going to sew a zipper into it, into the middle here. And then it's going to keep me so awesomely warm, yet it's going to be breathable. This is a pattern that doesn't have a name yet, so if you have any good suggestions, and not necessarily something that goes with the color, because there's two versions of it, and the other one is not in like purples and reds at all. The fun thing about this pattern, this one is worked, the sample I'm showing you here is worked in the Alafoss Lopi, which is the heavier one. So that is a aran weight yarn right here. There is another version of it. You can basically knit this pattern, you can get this pattern and then knit it as more of an indoor, you know, in a colder office, or in the fall when you're sitting, in the winter when you're sitting inside and, you know, like you're sitting on a computer and you're not moving around much and you get cold. Like I always feel like I need an extra layer inside. I guess my house is just not all that warm. And this one would be more of your outdoor version. I mean, the lighter one can also be worn outdoors once it's not super cold, like in the fall. But this one I will be wearing in the winter for sure. So let me start from the beginning. So this Lopi pattern that I'm working on, that's going to come out in September, is basically designed so that you can knit it either with the Alafoss Lopi, which is this one, the aran weight, or you can knit it with the Lettlopi, which is, wait, this is bulky, not aran, I'm sorry. In the bulky, or you can knit it in the worsted aran weight Lettlopi, which is a lot thinner, at the same gauge. So what that does is it will make a fabric that is airy and light and very open. And you may have to use a different needle, because I know I've noticed that when you work with yarns at a like off-label gauge, so to speak, so if you're using a yarn at a gauge that's way looser than what originally was planned for it, people's needle sizes vary vastly. So please, please, please make sure you do a gauge swatch. I know people know that I always insist on that, but for this one particularly, same for the Hauch cardigan that you can see on Ravelry as well. It's a very lightweight cropped striped cardigan that you can wear over like a high-waisted pant or a dress or whatever. It doesn't come like too far down. Oh, and you get to say hi to my cat because she wants to hang out. Foxy, say hi to my podcast listeners. This is Foxy, my really, really fluffy cat. Yeah? You want to sit with me? You want to sit with me? She's got very pointy claws too. Let's put her back down here. Okay, you sit next to me. That's good. So in the Alafoss Lopi, it is going to be warm, it's going to be thick, it's going to be outdoorsy. In the Lettlopi, it's going to be loose. You can actually hold it up and see through it. But the gauge and the yarn will still keep you warm, and it will breathe more. So it's not going to be oppressive hot, even when it gets a little warmer, but it's going to be super nice. I've worn it going camping where everybody else had like layers of fleeces on, and I just wore my Lettlopi version of a coat. The nice thing is too, when it comes down to your mid-thigh, it just keeps you a lot warmer than if it's shorter. So, and of course you can make it as long as you want. Just make sure that there is a zipper in the length. So go to the zipper store first. They, in the US, they come in like 28, 30, 32. They come in 2-inch increments, unless you get like a specially made one. But just make sure you'll be able to find a zipper, because once you go into different colors, it's hard to find them in longer lengths. Like they'll make them in like black, white, and navy or something. So here is my Lopi coat. Oh, and another thing I wanted to show you while we're here is when I do, where is it? Yes, kitty, I know mommy loves you. You're a good kitten, little fluffy. So you get to hear my cute things voice. So when I do underarm decreases, in order for me to remember where they are, instead of going, okay, well, I have to do this every 6 rows 5 times, let's say, and then keep counting back, because I can't keep track of how many rounds I'm on. So what I do, every time I do a decrease, I plop a little marker into it, and then all I have to do is count the markers, and then I know when I'm done. And you know, of course, I count the stitches to make sure and to double check, but it makes it so much easier. I highly recommend this. So that is one of the patterns coming up. And then I have another one that I've been working on, which is Oh my gosh, it is so cozy, you guys. This is a new yarn from, wait, I'm holding it upside down. Not that it matters much because it's pretty much reversible, but this is called Billow, B-I-L-L-O-W, because it just billows like a cloud. It feels like a cloud. It really does. I would not want to wear it right now because it's still 90 degrees outside, even though it's September. But once fall comes, this is going to be wonderful. The yarn that I used for it is called Yana from Amano Yarns here. And it is 200 grams. I would say it's a bulky or a super bulky yarn probably. 200 grams is about 175 yards, 160 meters. And it is 100% fine Highland wool, and it really is fine. It is, I mean, it's like a merino. It is super soft. It's a single ply. Let me just show you the lighter color here, just sand color. So it's a single ply, and it's just gorgeously scrumptious. I hope it focuses on some of this as I'm holding it up. But this cowl, let me show you the other side. It is sort of reversible if you don't mind garter stitch or purl stitch. It sort of looks cool on both sides, but there clearly is a wrong side and a right side. So on the right side here, on the right side here, you can see that the pattern has stripes going this way and stripes going that way. So I have, what I did is I literally did like a basket weave, like a block print basket weave thing where there are little squares of brioche and then there are sections where you stripe the yarn. So you'll have markers in here if you want to. You don't have to, because I mean, for me it was easy to see, but if you're newer to mixing different patterns, you may want to. Oh, and I didn't cut my end off. I did weave it in. I just didn't cut it off yet. So here there's a section of brioche from here to here, and then we have a section of stripes right there. So this was a lot of fun, and I literally knit this in an afternoon. So this is like a great last minute project, and it used less than half of these skeins, so you can make yourself one for you, one for your friend, or you can make one in this color and then switch the colors around, or make two for yourself, or whatever you want. But I highly recommend this Amano yarn called Yana, Y-A-N-A. They also are making another yarn that I can show you quickly before it gets used up and stuff. This is Yana XL, and you can see it's like almost as thick as my thumb. It's definitely as thick as my index finger. So this is Yana XL, and I'm going to have a pattern coming out in that as well. Once their yarn, this is a new yarn for them. It's coming out sometime in September, maybe the end of September. I'm not quite sure, but I'm working on some patterns to use their yarn with. Okay, more knitting. So a couple things that I finished that are not, or at least one, the other thing is like missing somewhere. One thing that I finished that is not my own pattern. This is called the Strand Hill, not sand, but Strand Hill cardigan. And I got it from a book that I bought from Knit Picks. It's their Golden Morning collection from 2015. But when I looked through it, I just loved so many things that I had to buy it, because I like to knit a couple things just for myself. Like I call it vacation knitting. I like to knit a couple things each year that are not my own pattern, because A, it forces my brain, it doesn't allow my brain to shut off, because it won't do that on its own. It forces my brain to just follow a pattern and not think out and change things. And also I feel like I learn a lot, because people have different ways of expressing how a pattern should be, how you should go about doing these 8 rows in sequence or whatever. And so I always learn different really, really neat things on how I could do stuff better. Sometimes I learn things like, oh, I would never want to do it like that, and it makes sense now that I read it because I don't understand what it means. But for this one, there were a lot of really cool things I learned. And I also really like this. I wasn't sure how I would feel about it, because I'm not 100% sold on the whole speckly thing. I'm always afraid that it's going to look a little bit too wild. But I got the yarn as well. This is Hawthorne from Knit Picks as well. It's their speckly fingering weight yarn, and they had a sale, and I needed to make $50 to get free shipping, and what can I say? So I bought this yarn and I bought the pattern, and I'm gonna wear it so much. This is super awesome. It's a short sleeve cardigan. It goes about to your hip and it has a little lace panel in the back. And it has these cute lace panels in the front as well. And then it just has the edging. Let me just put it on so you can see. Maybe I'll stand up. I'll take a picture and put it in here in the podcast as well. Don't call me Loki, okay? No clawing. So here is about how far it goes. Oh, and these are my lander shorts, which I need to fix yet because the button's in the wrong place. But polka dot lander shorts. So I don't know how much of it you can actually see since I'm like squished in front of the camera. And now the cat has taken my seat. Cat, you can't do that. You're gonna need to go back over to your side. So here. But it goes well with pants, it goes well with a dress, it goes well over jeans, it goes well with so many things. The only thing is, I feel like I need to make myself some rust color lander pants now, which is another pattern that I've been obsessed with. It's a sewing pattern by True Bias. And after I've made a couple muslins and I did some alterations, it fits really well and it's so comfortable. It's a higher waisted pant. There's a short version and then there's the longer version. And for the longer version, the pants are quite flared, so it's like a 70s style pant, but I think I'm going to take it in just a little bit because I'm afraid I'm going to trip over them. I'm not, I'm clumsy sometimes. So. But for the shorts, they're amazing. I made 3 pairs so far, besides the like ratty little muslins to just kind of figure out what size I needed and stuff. But they're generously sized, and if you've wanted to make shorts, they have great pockets in the front and the back. They are super awesome. This one I made with the one that I just showed you when I stood up. This one has a zipper in it. The pattern actually doesn't come with instructions for the zipper. It's buttons, which it looks really cool with the buttons, but I just had this cheap zipper, so I wanted to try it. But yeah, back to the cardigan. So this is the Strand Hill cardigan. It's open in the front. It just gives you a little bit of warmth on your shoulders, which is perfect for in-between season. I have a lot of dresses that are short-sleeved or sleeveless, and with this I can wear them just that much longer because it's lightweight and it's just, I love it. I really, really do. So this is the Strand Hill cardigan by, let me see if I can find that book. So, yes, so Golden Morning is where I got this from. I'm also knitting this out of here, which hopefully will be done for next year because I love the way it works up. I love the yarn, but my hands don't love it as much. So working with the linen cotton blend is rough on my hands and I need to do it in increments. So I can work with wool much quicker and much faster. And so let me see if, I don't know if I'm saying her name right, but the designer is Keya Kuhn, Keya Kuhn. And this is the Strand Hill cardigan that I'm wearing right now. It looks super cute in the solid, but I just wanted to try it in a speckle, so I did. Okay, so now that we've gone over all the things I've knit, I also have new projects that I'm working on. I've gotten some really cool yarn from Malabrigo that is going to become a shawl. So these 3 colors, these 3 colors are going to become a shawl. I have another light blue one in here that goes with it. And then I also got some new yarn from, put this on the pile over here. I also got some new yarn from Space Cadet Yarns. And I will just show you the 2 yarns that I'm going to use for a shawl as well. So I have these. This is Lyra, which is their sport weight yarn. It's 100% superwash, and aren't these colors just perfect together? I can't wait to like pair them up. It's going to be a shawl that has some brioche insertions in it as well, because I've really been fascinated with that and how fun it is to just drop like little bits of it. Like I see what other people are doing with brioche, but my mind just works on different wavelengths, I think. I like to experiment. I like to experiment with stuff, and I like to try different things. So for me, I'm using brioche not like an entity, but more like a stitch pattern. So that's what you saw in the Billow shawl and the Billow cowl. I'm using it like blocks in between other things, or like rows of it in other patterns, and I'm just trying to see how it plays with other things. That just makes it exciting for me. So here is my Space Cadet yarn. She has wonderful colors. If you want to check it out, I'm going to put the link below. Of course, everybody knows Malabrigo already. And then, you know, which is really, really cool. Whoops. So now the yarn just fell down on top of the cat. Poor kitten. They are super, super nice. So Stephanie from Space Cadet Yarn sent me this bundle of samples to try out her other bases because, as she said, it's hard to know what they will work up and how they feel and how they work until you've tried them. So she just sent me some like one-of-a-kind colors and colors from their club and in all their different bases. So I have a sparkly one here, which the base is called the yarn is Lucina or Lucina, and it has a little bit of nylon sparkle in it. And what I really like about this, not just the sparkle, but that it's soft. I know I've had like sparkly yarns in the past that had like that stellina stuff in it or like some sort of metal, and it was super scratchy. This is really nice and soft. So I guess the nylon sparkle is different. Then there is Aurora, which is merino, cashmere, and nylon. That's this one. Then we have this one that reminds me of candy. It's called Esther, which is superwash, merino, and nylon, an 80-20 base. Isn't that fun? The color is, it's from her mini skein club, so I'm not sure if these colors are, yeah, this just says 2017-77, so I don't think this is a color you can normally get. But I got one. I'm so excited. And then I have here Oriana 8-ply. This is a superwash merino. It feels very much like a cotton because it's an 8-ply, so it has, I don't know if you can see that, but it has a lot of, obviously it has 8 plies going through it, versus being a 2-ply or a 3-ply or having 2 plies then plied together. So it really has a very cottony feel in a way. I don't know how to describe the hand otherwise. And here we have Celeste, which is 100% superwash merino, which that orange is gorgeous, isn't it? Also, it's just a date, I'm sorry, so it's not a color that is normally available. And then this is Maya, which has bamboo, and so it's 80% bamboo. Oh, this is going to be so slinky and awesome. And 20% superwash merino, probably just to give it a little hold and little body, because I know modal and rayon and bamboo, like all those fibers, are very drapey. They're very like almost like silk, but they don't have a whole lot of memory. So if you want something like a shawl, like a lace shawl, it will have a lot of drape. It will be beautiful. It will be flowy, but it won't like hold its structure. It won't bounce back a lot. So those are my little mini skeins that I got. So excited to try these, and I'm excited to cast on the shawl and the Space Cadet yarn. And now let's go on to some other things that I've made. First, a sip of iced coffee. As you can see, it is so humid that even inside with the air conditioning, everything condensates like crazy. And I have like a super big puddle underneath. Even on my thirsty stone, it just isn't thirsty enough for how it's been. So the other thing I've been doing is the painting. I used to do a lot of watercolor. In school, actually, I did a lot of gouache as well, but later I did more watercolor, and I really, really love that medium, but I have put it aside and I haven't done much with it. And I found this class on Skillshare with Ria Sharon, and I'm going to put the link on the bottom here. And the class is called Sketchbook Magic. And she says it's for anyone who like feels art speaking to them, but they haven't done it in a while. So she goes over all the excuses that people have as to why they haven't picked up their art supplies in a while. I don't have time. I don't have the right supplies, which I'm totally guilty of that, because even though I do, I always feel like, well, I need to go to the art store and then like buy this new thing and like then I will make art. Which is ridiculous because I have a whole closet upstairs that's full of art supplies. I really don't. And the time too is like, she has you do art in under 10 minutes a day. It really, I mean, the class, I highly recommend the class. It's so awesome. It's so much fun. It's so freeing. So I wanted to just show you my setup a little bit so that you can get a feel for what I did. So you're supposed to just do something every day. And on day one, you're just supposed to make marks. And she actually has you just gather like things that you can make marks with. So she has a jar in the video. She has a jar that has like pencils and crayons and brushes and a toothbrush and a fork. And actually for day one, she blindly grabs the fork. I wasn't as confident about that. I think I'm maybe too controlling. I don't know. But I wanted to really work with my watercolor, so I purposefully picked the brush and the watercolor instead of like randomly letting fate decide what I was going to make my marks with. So on day one, I just started just playing around, and I just used different colors, and it grew from there into this. I also always wanted to do round paintings, so I took a bowl and sketched out a round mark on my sketch paper, and then did that. And then on day two, she had us, there was a different process, there's a process with like a magic bowl where you have different ideas and on what to draw, because one of the things people always say is to like, well, I know I want to draw, I want to paint, but I don't know what to paint. And so she has a thing for that as well. She has a magic bowl where you grab a thing out of that she, you know, she has this sheet that she wrote up for you with all the different prompts. And so I picked everyday object, and I had a tea kettle, a teapot in front of me. So I painted the teapot. And on day three, it was about time, and she has you randomly select this number that is going to be the minutes that you get. Well, my number was 5, and I didn't do very well with it because I decided that I was going to watercolor, and this is after 35 minutes, and I think I'm still not done with what I want to do. So I said, you know what, I really need to like do this the right way. So the next day I started back up, and I did the line drawing part in 5 minutes. That's what I did. And then on the following day, I just took some watercolor and colored this in. But all the micron pen, the black lines, are what I did in 5 minutes. I set a timer so that I can't say like, you know, I don't have enough time. And then the following day, I forget if there was another hint for it, but my prompt for the painting that day was song lyrics, and I picked song lyrics from one of the groups that I like called Lord Huron, and the song, I'm not sure which song it's from, but the line goes, "Stay right here and watch the cosmos twirl." So I did the twirling cosmos here with watercolor, and I actually used fountain pen ink for this as well, because I wanted to see how it does on watercolor paper with a brush. So I used my Noodler's ink that I usually use for my fountain pen and drew on there. Then I used Prussian blue watercolor, and then I used gouache and opaque white ink to add the elements and the stars into it. And as my husband pointed out, he's like, oh look, there's a bunny and a hippo in your painting, and now all I can see is the bunny and the hippo. Can you see the bunny here with its ears? Here's the eye. It's giving a kiss to the hippo, who's like here, ears, eye, who's down here. So bunny and hippo, or cosmos, whatever you want to call it. And then I did a couple of just watercolor cards. I did some lake scenes with pine trees, and here there's some loons on it, which I just really love pine trees. I really do. And what I'm using for this is obviously a paintbrush, and then I also told myself that if I really keep up with this, I get to buy really fancy watercolors from Wildthorn, which is a handmade, hand-ground watercolor. They make their watercolors by using earth pigments and minerals and precious stones, and they hand grind it and hand mull it or mill it or whatever it's called. And they're made in the Southwest somewhere. I want to say Arizona, maybe. I will look that up. But it's called Wildthorn, and I've been admiring their colors and their beautiful photos on Instagram for a while. So I will put that link down there too, so you can go admire it too, because I just wanted these colors. And so since I now have done my 7 days of my class, I've ordered myself a set, just 6 colors, and I'm excited to have them come here and show up. At the end of the month, I'm going camping with a friend of mine to her family's wild cabin up in north central Pennsylvania, and we're going to do some art, and I'm hoping to take those colors with me. But for now, I have my artist watercolors, which I have brought here so that I can show you my setup. So what I did is I bought a really cheap travel set. This is like Van Gogh, super fine quality half pan set. However, normally, from my experience, the half pans or like any of the dried colors don't have an intense pigmentation. Not as intense a pigmentation as the tube paints. So what I did is I took a knife and I pried out the colors, and then I used my more expensive or my more fancy artist watercolors and squeezed from the tube paint, squeezed it in there and let it dry. So I made my own pans in a way, and then I have my little sheet that tells me what color is where. So I have in here I have Memory Blue, which is a brand. I have Winsor & Newton, and I think I have one Daniel Smith. I'm not sure. But so my paints are basically, what this does is I think it gives you a more concentrated pigment. Also, when you're mixing colors and you go with your brush from one to the other, it doesn't mess up your whole color, and you can like clean it back up. So the yellow, even though it has a little green in it, it didn't muddy the whole color. When I could glue them in, but I didn't because I want to pop them out at times. So these are the colors I use, and for a lot of the paintings, actually for this painting, I used 3 colors. For this, I used, I think 3, and then I did an accent with like a 4th color, but like I mixed all the colors out of 3 colors. So you really don't need a whole lot to make any of this happen. First thing I did when I picked up my colors again, I had to make a new little swatch so I could remember what colors I had in my box, and so that I could quickly see what color they would give, because as you can see, they're pretty dark. You can't always see this exactly. So, and today for our prompt, we have a bowl that the class tells you to do. She has all these different things that are on a sheet, and you cut them out and put them in here. And then, so there's like transportation, everyday objects. I added a couple of other ones that I felt like I wanted to have in there, like 3 colors. I want to try to work with like a minimal color palette. And so I have all of that in here. Of course, when you sign up for the class, you can actually see there's like, you don't have to do this in color. You can use pencils, you can use a pen. Some of the exercises I probably will be doing like this, but today I'm just feeling like I need a little color in my life, and so that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to pick something out of here without looking. And I picked everyday objects, so I will quickly pause this and find myself an everyday object that I can paint, and then I will go to town. So I picked this teapot as my everyday object, and I'm going to, I know you're not going to be able to see this because it's going to sit out of the frame, but I'm going to sit it over here, and I'm going to try to draw this.